Hey guys, thanks for joining in. I'm here to do just a real quick analysis of Bitcoin and kind of taking a look and seeing where we are. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Of course, everything I say here is not going or should not be considered financial advice, and you're responsible for all of your trades. And yeah, so do your own research, of course. But I'm here to kind of give some points and tips based on what I see here in the market, taking a look at a few things, and going from there. All right. So, what I want to focus on here is, first off, we have our run down here from the very bottom, right? So it's clear that we've got a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. And from the bottom here on this 4, we can easily see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up here to the top, and then you see an A, B, C correction. So I'm considering this. Let me just go ahead and outline this. I'm considering this starting from down here on this big retracement. I'm considering this a 1 and then a 2. And I'm not getting this perfect, but you kind of get the idea. I'll turn off my magnet. And then what I think we have is a 3 up here. And then we're finishing a 4, right? So we're finishing a 4, and then we're going to go up for the 5. All right, so if we take this, right? If we take this from here as a 1 and then pull down for the 2, and then we just finish the 3. So this is you can pull the count out of here. So this is like a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5 to get in this 3, and it's a blow off top, an extended fifth for sure to get that 3. But now we're going in for a correction. What we're trying to figure out is where this 4 is going to resolve down to. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. We're going to talk about some rules with Elliott and kind of figure out where potentially we could be going. So first off, I'm going to tie this off over here. I'm going to set a horizontal ray, and I'm going to set it to the top of where I'm saying that this 1 is. So that's right there at 91.11. So in order for us to go back over 14K, we can't go below 91.11. If we do go below 91.11, then we're definitely, I don't want to say in trouble, but we're definitely not looking at going back up in that area anytime soon. So that's an important point. What we did see is from this run down here, where I'm basically considering this 2, basically measuring the 2 to the 3, and we're sort of fighting here at the 618 on the way down. Now, as we all know, if I go to like a 3-day chart and I take a look from a Fibonacci perspective from the top down here to the bottom, then we basically hit the 618 on the way up. So here's the 618 that we hit on the way up. Here's the 618 that we're hitting on the correction down. So I'll keep that there just for illustration. Probably color it something a little bit different so that we can easily see difference between the two. So we've got that we're sort of paying attention to there. So here is the 618 up here. We've got a 50% and a 382 here, but the 618 is where we have sort of got rejection off of, and then we had a front run on the retest. We weren't able to make it back, although we did get pretty deep on the way back up there. Now, a couple things here that we need to pay attention to are corrections. So we have from the top, we've got basically an A, B, C, right? And then from here, we've got an A, a B, and a C, right? And then from the top here, where I'm considering our dominant pivot. So we had a dominant pivot down here at about 9,600. We had a dominant pivot up here at about, I don't know, 13.3 or somewhere along those lines. And now we're heading down. So we've got a 3, 3, and then are we going to get a 5 on the way down? So that's a good question, right? So, you could count that this could possibly have been a 5 to get us all the way down here. If you has a potentially a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but that's not very clean because our 4 extends into where we have where our 1 wave is. So I'm not considering that to be a valid count. But what we could be forming is this to be a 1, a 2, and then we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then going back for the 4, and then going down here for maybe a deeper fifth, hopefully not to go beyond this point right here. So that's sort of kind of a rough drawing, but kind of what I'm trying to pay attention to. But from a corrective phase standpoint, I'm going to use a trend-based Fibonacci extension. I use this all the time. And I actually believe this is a pretty important tool to use when you're doing any kind of like an impulse or a corrective measurement. So this is what I'll do. I'll take it from the top. I'll go down to my first dominant pivot, and then I'll go to my next dominant pivot. So what all this is really doing, I'll just try and explain what's happening here. And while I'm explaining, I'm going to clean some of this up a little bit. What this is actually doing is it's measuring the length of this right here. So if I were to take, say, a straight line, and I go from here at the top, and I work my way down here to the bottom of this, right? So I've got this line. If I take this line and I move it over to where this starts, then of course I've got my 100% right here. It's just measuring the length of the first move. And 100% means 100% of the length of the first move, but starting where the third move starts. So we've got our first move, second move, third move. So we've got A, B, C, right? So from here, we have an A down here, we've got a B up here, and then we're going down for a C. And let me just change the degree on this so that it's a little easier to see. I'll change the color as well so that we've got some easier visibility into this. So question is, was this the bottom? Could this have been the bottom? It could have been. So if I make a slight adjustment to this, we can see the levels a little bit clearer. Okay, so in a corrective phase, and I've said this in other videos before, but I'll illustrate this again. In a corrective phase, we're looking for either 61.8% the length of the first move, or the A, or 100%, or 123.6, which takes us all the way down to $8,000. So that goes pretty deep, if you ask me. But it's very well that I've got this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 count, completely incorrect. But at any rate, we're basically looking for this level at 9,000, or this level at 8,000. Pretty clear lines that we're looking for. Anything in this range could be considered bullish still, right? So anywhere in this range could still be considered a valid ABC correction. We could go that deep. Now, if we do go that deep, then we have to sort of take a look at our basically at our counts prior to the move that we're counting here. So this could have been the end of our first impulse, and taking our way down here, in which case that would be perfectly fine for that to occur. But if we go further than 8,000 on our correction down, more than likely we're going to go all the way down to the 1618. And if we do, what that means, just for clarity, if we do head all the way down to the 1618, which means that that this wave is going to be 161.8% the length of the A wave, that typically means that we're in for a 5-wave correction, and it typically means that we're going to go for lower prices. Now, we haven't done that yet, right? We haven't made that move yet, so we're not going to discuss those until we break 8,000. If we break 8,000 in this move. The way things are looking right now, if this is a 1, 2, and then we're working for a 3, 4, 5, it is possible for us to get down to this 8,000 mark, or potentially like 8,500, somewhere in that area. This is likely an area that I would be a buyer. Just because this is kind of completing a corrective cycle. Of course, we have been just completely parabolic, so it does make sense for us to correct a little bit more than we have. Yes, we have corrected about 30% in our A move. So, it's possible that this ABC was all we're going to get. And we've just basically created 1, 2 of a much larger upward move. I don't think that that's quite what's going to happen. I think this sideways action is going to take some time. But basically, a couple levels that I'm going to pay attention to, taking Elliott wave completely out of the picture. So, what I want to do is I want to just create a little bit of a wedge here that we could potentially be forming. And I do say that word a lot because we could potentially be doing all kinds of things. But this is something that I will be paying attention to. So if we break below this, then this pennant will kind of be null and void, and likely will head back down here to this 9,000 area or somewhere in that neighborhood. Now, if we do make our way back up here, then potentially looking for a rejection here at about 12,800. Don't think we'll quite get up to 13,000 yet, but this trend line is something that I would be looking to break. But if we do happen to get rejected here, then basically what we would be creating is an A, a B, a C down here, potentially a D, and then an E in this level. And that would essentially mean that once we get down to this E, then we have a potential for breaking through that trend line and working our way up. So those are the things that I'm basically looking for, still looking for the correction on the way down. What I will illustrate on this correction, our first correction here, let's just take a look at this and just kind of show you where this sort of panned out. So starting from up here, working our way down here, and then going all the way back up here to this point, right? So we went between the 618 and the 100%. We didn't quite reach that point of failure on this correction. So we do have a little bit of an ABC up here. Let's just take a look at that. We were able to get all the way up to this point. We just kind of broke through, but we never closed below the 1236. So this still kind of told us that we were going to bounce up from this point. Although we did get all the way down here to the 1618, but that was after we had already rebounded. So that ABC had already completed, and then we started to move up, and that almost looks like a 5 wave, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the way up. And then we came back down, rolled over a bit, and then, of course, we are where we are now. Of course, always keeping in mind this was the 618, or not being able to close the daily above this. We weren't actually able to close the daily above 13,000. So 13,000 is our major resistance at this point. We haven't been able to close the daily above it. That was the 61.8. And then, of course, down here was also the 61.8. And so we're sort of consolidating in between. It's still, we're still seeing some bullish activity. If I hide my TTM squeeze and we take a look just at our MACD, so this is actually the histogram that I've sort of turned into a line diagram. What we can see is down here at this low, we have our level at this range, and then we were able to see a price action. They got higher, but we had a lower low on here, which is that is considered like a hidden bullish divergence. But then, of course, down here you have regular divergence. So taking a look here, and this is on a 4-hour chart, of course, we've got a lower low on the price, but on the MACD, we're getting a slightly higher low on that as well. So that's slightly bullish as well. And of course, we were able to rally just a little bit off of that. We're still sitting at about 10,600. I'm still looking for a close above about 10,675, 10,700, especially on the daily. If we can close up here, then I definitely think that we are going to potentially retest the pitchfork at 11,600 and kind of go from there and see where things are going. Of course, we're looking at our 21 exponential on the 4-hour, which is sitting right here at about 10,900. The 21 exponential on the daily is about 11,000. On the half-day chart, we've got our 21 exponential at about 12,250, or somewhere in that general range. So those are the levels that I'm sort of looking for here. If we're able to take out this wick right here, then I do think that we have much more potential for us to continue to go higher. So again, kind of pay attention to that level right there. And then after we are able to pass above that level, which is at about 10,700, 10,715, then we're going to be looking for penetration into this zone here in this general range between about 10,800 and 10,950 before we can say that we're actually going to go up and break this 11,000. So a retest of the 21 exponential on the 4-hour more than likely is going to happen. We had a retest here, and it failed, and we rolled over. We penetrated into it a little bit. We actually closed above it, but then the next hour just rolled over, and we've been kind of going down. Now I think we're setting up to retest it again, and we'll kind of look for the reaction here in this range, see what happens. Our closing, our 4-hour block that we're going to be looking and paying attention to is at 11,182 or 11,200. So definitely have a lot of resistance that we're going to be running into, a lot of exponentials that are important, generally speaking, when it comes to trading. So pay attention to those, trade carefully, and I think I'll be out now. And so if you have any questions, of course, feel free to relay them on Discord. I'll be there and to answer any questions that you have. So everyone have a good one.